Yeah. Yeah. Boom. Yeah. Wait for it. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to episode 197 of the F and Marks podcast.
I'm Jay.
And I am brainlessly today.
Yeah.
You know, it's not very often, in fact, hell, I mean, this is probably the first time it's actually happened where Halloween has fallen on the episode of the podcast.
It's the Halloween Havoc episode of the podcast.
The Halloween Havoc episode, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I went through a lot of pain. I ripped out a whole bunch of hairs on my wrist just putting the wristbands on. But, you know, hey, I've never felt like I fit in looking like somebody more in my entire life.
What's up, Mike? Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it.
I didn't realize how bad the freaking tape was around my glasses. But whatever. It's fun. I don't want to get stuck to my glasses. I still need to see with them. Yeah?
Yeah?
So we got quite a bit to get into today. We did have Bound for Glory last Saturday. And for me, quite a few surprise results from that, if I do say so myself, including the Impact World Heavyweight Championship match. I was kind of surprised by that. And then we're going to also talk about Hell in a Cell from Sunday. And I'm not going to lie, Hell in a Cell was actually a pretty solid show. I liked what they did with quite a few of the things there. Bayley and Sasha delivered once again, like I was not surprised that they did. A surprise ending to that one as well. We're also going to talk about what happened on Halloween Havoc.
Lots of stuff. Lots of good stuff this week.
I know. And we always talk about it every week about how, for the most part, it's always a good week when you have multiple candidates for your good, but then it's always a bad week when you have multiple candidates for your brainless. But
I mean, Halloween Havoc, really fun show. Another show that happened this week. Honestly, the show as a whole was not the greatest I've seen, but the main event was worth the price of admission. Walter versus Dragunov. Holy shit. NXT UK, that match was off the fucking hook.
Yes, it was. Kudos to both of those guys for delivering in a way that we knew that they were going to deliver. I've been a fan of Dragunov. The dude just goes out and just wants to fight everybody.
You know, we'll get into that a little bit more in depth after. So,
yeah. And then other news and notes that have happened in WWE.
Twitch is officially now part of the like band or what have you, or at least where the different folks within WWE who had Twitch accounts are like going, yeah, we're not doing it anymore because more or less WWE says they're going to take our money for doing this. So that went into effect. I think officially today is the last day they could have it, but a lot of people deactivated their accounts earlier this week.
If I was a WWE employee, my last thing I would do on Twitch is a video of my nutsack.
Well, Paige did a video on Twitch. I don't know if she's officially shut down her Twitch, but she kind of went crazy. I shouldn't say crazy. She got very emotional about it. So we'll get into that a bit. We did have the return of Pete Dunne this week on NXT.
We most certainly did. And a surprising way of getting Pete Dunne back, too. So I thought that was interesting how they handled that.
We had a couple of matches officially announced for not only Survivor Series, but also Full Gear. And Full Gear for AEW is next weekend.
And in regards to the Survivor Series pay-per-view itself, it looks like it's going to go back to Raw versus SmackDown like it had been, in previous years, except for last year when NXT was actually part of it. And we will actually get into the reason why NXT will not be a part of Survivor Series this year.
And there will be a Pac sighting next week on AEW Dynamite, and he will discuss why we haven't seen him. So
obviously, Jay, I have a reasonable explanation as to why Pac hasn't been around.
Why is that brainless one?
It's because of the fact that he's been stuck in the hollowed out tree Ernie must have contracted the coronavirus, so the next in charge had to get up there and start making the fudge striped and the grasshoppers and all the other wonderful Keebler cookies.
Right.
Duh. I mean, we didn't really need to
Obviously.
dedicate an entire segment of the podcast for that.
All right. So Mike is bringing up something that happened at Hell in a Cell. Do you want to get into Hell in a Cell, or do you want to start somewhere else?
I mean, if he's asking, we might as well just start off with Hell in a Cell then.
All right. This was actually one of the things I was not a big fan of. Overall, just because the storyline that they did with Otis Dosovich, getting the Money in the Bank contract, it seemed like, they were going to try to do something with him besides just having him be like a comedy character. And they just kind of kept that going, and hey, that's fine. But you end up now, we have Miz with the Money in the Bank contract. He won. Okay, I have no problem with Miz getting a shot at a title. I really don't.
If there's somebody who has busted their ass the last few years to earn that opportunity, it has been the Miz.
That's fine, but
the way
the way it happened, I don't mind that they had Tucker become a heel, but aren't they on different brands now?
Yep. So
what's the purpose? You're starting up a feud that's not going to happen. It's just stupid. Like, now what's Tucker going to do? Go on TV, talk about how jealous he was of, Dozer getting all the attention, and then them not having a match. I mean, I guess they can make it happen for Survivor Series and have both of them end up being on a Survivor Series team. Even so,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It's stupid.
I don't understand why they did what they did. But I mean, come on, Jay. How many times have we said it over the many years that we've been watching wrestling? Why the hell did they do what they did? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, we get stuck with trying to figure out this, like, why did, storyline wise, the way they did it, it made sense. And like when they ejected John Morrison from ringside and Tucker was still there and he was kind of hovering around the briefcase, I'm like, oh God, here it comes. I'm like, I know it's gonna happen. I'm like, it's just too damn predictable. And sure as shit, he picked up the briefcase and he hit, Otis Dosovich with it. The Miz got on top, scored the pinfall, and is now the new Mr. Money in the Bank. They have been, floating around this idea of taking the briefcase off of Otis for a while because it just didn't make sense for Otis because of the fact, like you said, he's kind of like that comedic role that he's been.
But they've had him with that briefcase for months. They could have shifted course with him. They decided to, like, hey, let's shock people and have him win Money in the Bank. It shocked everybody except for the brainless one who predicted it.
And my biggest thing about Otis Dosovich winning it was I agree with you saying that it was for shock value. And I think that in the short term, it made a lot of sense for Vince to do it. But long-term booking-wise, because of the fact that you had Roman, when you had Roman Reigns come back the way he did and win the title immediately, like he basically won it a week after he returned and everything. And it's like, all right, now we're just going to run the ball with freaking Roman Reigns basically all the way up to WrestleMania. Tell me if I'm wrong, or you think that, it could be a little bit less of a run, but it looks like they're going to have Roman hold this title till at least WrestleMania this year.
Might even be longer.
It could even be very much longer.
Honestly, I think with the Roman storyline, he could keep it a year and a half. I'm putting that out there because I think the person who, well, maybe even longer. I was going to say the person that he would have a title match with at WrestleMania would be his cousin. And I don't know if his cousin will wrestle this year at WrestleMania.
Like I said, I had the brilliant idea of what they should have done. They should just have The Miz get the title from Roman Reigns. And then Roman Reigns ends up fighting for the title against The Miz at WrestleMania 37. And when it looks like Roman has the upper hand, The Rock comes out, stop me if you've heard this one before, gets involved in the match, costs Roman the match. The Miz wins in the main event at WrestleMania 37 to retain the WWE Championship. Roman gets pissed off and sets up for his feud the following year to fight The Rock at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's not like WWE's ever done that before. Oh, wait. I think the irony of it would be just hysterical. Because
They're not going to do that.
I know they're not going to do it, but it would just be, think about it. Because the Miz is...
No, you would have such a tism that they did that.
No, it wouldn't. Because then the Miz would then have two major victories in the main event at 2 different WrestleManias against the 2 biggest stars at that time in WWE. A la The Rock had to give him the hockey assist to get the victory in both of those matches. But if you think about it, the Miz would be victorious and 2-0 in the main event of WrestleMania, while CM Punk is lucky to be the 3rd match in the card at a WrestleMania.
Right.
Speaking of which, somebody did come out to CM Punk and asked him if he would like to face Roman Reigns for the title in the main event at WrestleMania, and he said, "No, I'd like to lead off the show. That show is 67 hours now."
It's true.
Oh, it's funny because it's true.
But in general, the way this whole storyline went out, it just kind of sucks what ended up happening with the Dozer. Getting lost in the shuffle in general for a while, and then, all right, well, put the Money in the Bank contract on the Miz. Again, Miz deserves a title shot at some point, but I just didn't like the way they went about this.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
All right. So a couple of the matches that were originally planned for this didn't happen, but we did have an unannounced match featuring Lashley versus Slapjack.
Well, technically, it was
Slapjack. Thank you, Urban Dictionary.
Ali basically challenged any member of the Hurt Business to fight against any member of Retribution. And Bobby Lashley stepped up to the challenge and said he would defend his United States Championship on the main show. So they basically told Ali, well, you can pick whatever member of Retribution that you want to have face Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship. And I am so glad that of all the people he could have picked, he gave us Slapjack. Can I just say
the gift that keeps on giving.
Can I just say one thing? Like, looking at Slapjack on Sunday, I realized that Shane Thorne has put on a few pounds. Like, he's not very well defined anymore. He kind of looks like me with a fucking paper plate. Yeah. That's what I should have did. I should have even dressed up like Bubba Ray Dudley. I should have dressed up like Slapjack. All I needed to do was get a paper plate, cut some holes in it, wrap it around my head, and just call myself Slapjack.
Oh, Slapjack.
When is Slapjack not going to be funny?
When is Great Gatsby not going to be funny? I don't know.
It's the same as when is Yeah going to get played out? Yeah!
Who knows? All I know is right now, none of them have played out.
I cannot believe how quickly Vince McMahon has turned the freaking Retribution storyline into an absolute shit bomb.
They spent all that time building it up to just, the only thing he turned on quicker was Kazarni. Kazarni had, 2 matches? Like, if you count that Battle Royal he was in?
He had his debut victory was against MVP. And then we didn't see him until he was in like a Battle Royal, I think, to determine the number 1 contender for the ECW title.
And he was like the 2nd or 3rd person thrown out of the ring.
Kind of like Duke Joshi at WrestleMania 17.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as fast as Repo Man getting eliminated that match, but still. But they had the potential and the opportunity to turn this into something. I was actually fully vested in this Retribution storyline and was thinking about actually, watching Raw on a regular basis. And then they gave us Slapjack and
Lashley.
T-Bar and
Mace
and
Ali
and whatever the hell, Reckoning, I think is what they call Mia Yim now. They give them stupid names. They have them wear stupid masks. And how can we make this any worse? Well, let's just have them lose every match they get into. We're going to have Slapjack fight Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. And my favorite part was after Lashley retained the championship, justifiably, because you're not going to have somebody new like that just walk in and take the championship. You know, they had him, you know, he had him.
Slapjack is the United States champion. And new.
Could you imagine?
Slapjack.
There's going to be, just think, they had to put nameplates on that thing, and they had to put the side plates on that thing. Like when Slapjack wins the WWE Championship.
Would he slapjack the title?
Slapjack, probably, I would. That's why they would never give me the title. But after the match, all of Retribution came out and started attacking Bobby Lashley, and I'm like, all right, when's the Hurt Business going to come out here and even the odds? And no, Bobby Lashley kind of just took things into his own hand. So not only did he beat Slapjack quite convincingly like he did, but he also took out the other members of Retribution before the Hurt Business can all come out wearing their suits to the ring. But I just...
Well, I mean, I certainly, like, I prefer the Hurt Business, but the thing here, it's like, I know you don't always have to do bad guy versus good guy, but it's like, this storyline's been like, all right, so you got the heel faction going against the heel faction. I know we had the Shield versus the Wyatt family a few years ago, but they had built up both factions into something legitimate. And I mean, I remember like this is awesome chance before they even touched, because they built it up properly. It's like Hurt Business, you know, yeah, they still need some time to build themselves up a bit more, but they have at least some credibility because they have wrestlers that people know.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about MVP and Shelton Benjamin and the freak Bobby Lashley, guys who have established themselves over the years.
With Cedric.
Yeah, and then you add the element of Cedric Alexander, who can learn a lot from the other three members of the Hurt Business.
But then you got Retribution, who has no credibility, and they've already basically cut the legs out from underneath them.
They built that faction around three guys. Well, basically one guy who was actually pretty solid at NXT, another guy who they didn't really do much with after they took him off the broadcast team. Then they put a third guy who was just kind of forgotten in NXT. I don't think anybody even knows that Shane Thorne was even on the roster before he came up wearing a paper plate and calling himself Slapjack. And it's like, and then you give them a leader whose claim to fame was he put his name out there, threw his hat in the ring to play Aladdin in the live version of Aladdin the movie from Disney. Yeah.
Nothing against any of those people as performers. WWE is really like just spit the bit there with that. Donnie Brown Snow has come in and said a couple of things for you.
Omega.
Yeah. Yes. Happy Halloween, Donnie Brown Snow. Effing Mark Hall of Famer. Yeah. So. Right.
Look, I don't know. I really.
So that was that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go. All right. Then we had Jeff Harvey versus Elias. The person we thought who was going to win won, but the way they won was a little bit different than I expected.
I did not expect that match to end in disqualification.
Jeff Harvey going absolutely ballistic with Elias's guitar on Elias. So Elias, getting a taste of his own medicine, and seeing a very aggressive side of Jeff Hardy.
I hate the fact that I have to say this, but I'm going to have to say it. If Elias can stay healthy,
yeah,
and I hate the fact that I have to say this, but if Elias can stay healthy, I expect some kind of a pretty solid push going for him.
Yeah. Somebody wants an explanation for the yeah. All right, so we'll give a brief explanation, Mike. There's a guy we play kickball with.
Yeah.
And he says yeah a lot. So we take it in as all professional wrestlers say, the best characters start off as, kind of a portion of them, but you just sit there and crank up the intensity times like 100, 1,000. So we've taken the and we have now multiplied it by 20,000.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that, like, when we were playing kickball, Brainless one, just sat there and he's like, "You ever notice how many times this dude says yeah?" And myself and F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe are both like, yeah. So
this thing has taken on a mind of its own that I never thought it was ever going to accomplish.
mm-hmm.
The fact that this thing has reached leaps and bounds higher than I ever thought imaginable, and I'm just so, I don't even know, like, I can't believe that with a brain like this that I can get anything over, and I get things over.
Yeah.
I also wanted to be brought to everyone's attention that Don't Eat the Brown Snow says the brainless one looks like a Bubba Ray Dudley figure you get from Wish.com.
All right. Take it. Yeah. So that's where the came from.
Yeah.
All right. So Elias wins via DQ. One thing I was, again, storyline wise, that I was, all right.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So anyway, I didn't like they have this match at Survivor Series, and then what they did the next night on Raw, after Hell in a Cell, what they did on Raw the next night, I didn't like. They set up this storyline, and then they start doing, stuff to build up for Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, Dynamite drop-in, Afi.
So good.
I love it. I love the fact that they did like this whole like ridiculousness to build up for Survivor Series, because it's typical. It's a typical Monday Night Raw after a pay-per-view. I'm surprised we didn't have like at least an hour's worth of the 3 hours of the freaking Raw being filled with rematches that happened the night before.
Honestly, this is one of the instances where they could have had the rematch. It would have made sense because you know what? They still have unresolved issues. Or if you wanted to put it, well, they probably can't put it on Survivor Series with the format for this year's show where it is going to be Raw versus SmackDown. But you have this bitter feud, and then the next day, all of a sudden, like it's almost like it vanished. You have somebody getting clocked with a guitar multiple times, and you're like, oh, no, Survivor Series qualifier. They could have had other people as part of those qualifying matches.
Because they did AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy, which we've seen that one when they were feuding on SmackDown for the Intercontinental title. We had Keith Lee versus Elias, and then we had Sheamus go up against a man now formerly known as Matt Riddle.
AKA Riddle.
We'll get into that too. I forgot to write that on the board. I think it's because I wanted to pretend like it didn't happen type of deal.
I understand why they did it, though. I do.
I understand too, because Vince has this infatuation with dropping people's first or last name. Could you imagine if he did that shit back in the day?
Where it was just Hogan?
It was Hogan, like Ultimate
Warrior,
Macho, Ravishing. It's
rude.
It's Rick. And all I'm gonna need is if some guy named Rick just told me that I'm a fat, out of shape Portsmouth, Virginia West Hog. How am I supposed to feel about this? Sweat Hog.
Sweat Hog.
What did I say?
You said wet.
Wet Hog. Sweat Hog.
West Hog, I think you said West Hog. Yeah.
Mister.
Right.
Zuna.
Fuji. Smash. Oh wait, that's the same.
Oh my God! Here is Brett.
Here's Hitman. Here's Drosy.
Here is the Rocket. The Rocket what? Yeah.
Oh, you know what? We should do that one day where we just go on and on about all name changes, like Giant.
You know, yeah. I mean, come on. I did come up with an alphabetical. I basically came up with an alphabetical version of things that fucking Cassius Ono is.
Yeah.
The Mauler of
Meatloaf. That's my favorite. Yeah.
I can't argue that one.
Yeah. Destroyer of buffets. Yeah. All right. So we have Elias win this match, get beaten up by Jeff Hardy, only for why didn't they have the two of them in a Survivor Series qualifier match? Well, apparently they didn't want either one of them on the Survivor Series team. But we ended up having both people who were in that match on the losing end. So whatever credibility you were trying to build up, obviously you're not trying to build it up too far.
To be fair, if I remember correctly, Elias actually cost Jeff Hardy his match against AJ Styles, and then returned the favor. Jeff Hardy cost Elias his match against Keith Lee. What I thought was interesting was when they announced the 3 qualifying matches, they got onto the Raw team. I said, wow. I'm like, 2 guys who were very much major players on Team NXT at last year's Survivor Series have a chance to be 40% of the guys on Team Raw this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody and their brother knew that Keith Lee was going to beat Elias. I will say this. I was a little surprised that Matt Riddle didn't go over on Sheamus. Maybe that's why he lost. He came up short, so they had to shorten his name.
Yeah. All right, so Donnie Brown's nose says it reminds him of Eli Drake when we say, yeah. So, yeah.
Is that Grayson Allen, the former Duke basketball player? I can't tell.
Hey, Graham.
Oh,
yeah. I still hope that he could be like one of the next big things, but you know.
Elias?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, if he could stay healthy, he's got a chance that they could shove a rocket up his ass and he'll do things.
Yeah, they had a couple opportunities before to do stuff, and they didn't really. So.
I'm still convinced that he was either going to be the king of the ring or he was going to be the one that won the Intercontinental.
He was supposed to be going against John Cena last year. That was at WrestleMania, and somebody brought it up last week on the podcast, but you know, it just ended up where they called an audible and decided to go with Bray Wyatt. And I know you love the fact that they.
Are you kidding me? You know how happy I was? Because number one, Elias beat the shit out of Baron Corbin and got his first victory at WrestleMania. So first of all, kudos to him, because that's a big feather in your cap. Beating the man who ended the career of arguably the most underrated and underappreciated wrestlers of the last 20 years. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
You think he's underappreciated?
I think he's underappreciated for what, because if you think about it, a lot of people, when they come up with like their top 5 lists or their Rushmores or this is my favorite wrestler and this, you know, but it's very rare that Kurt Angle's name gets thrown out there. And I think it should. I think justifiably, Kurt Angle is one of those guys because he kind of gets overlooked because he was in an era around the time that they had Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and The Undertaker, guys who were just like polarizing figures.
I disagree with the reason why. I think he didn't get outshined by Stone Cold and by The Rock and all those folks. What happened is he had a drug problem and he went to TNA for 9 years. If he stayed in WWE and actually like kept performing, like his matches in TNA were freaking awesome. Him and AJ Styles, check out anything that they had back in I think it was like 2009, 2008. Holy fucking shit! But he was doing it in front of a much smaller audience.
It's our goal audience.
So, you know, Kurt Angle shot his own self in the foot as far as like how high you want to put him up on that list. But I mean, as far as like in-ring performers, I think almost everybody out there would probably say he's like a top 5 performer all time in the ring.
I agree. I think that's a safe assessment. Because if you think about it, like Steve Austin wasn't the greatest in-ring performer. All Steve Austin used to do was just go in the ring and beat the shit out of people. That's what he was. The Rock was just, the guy just oozed fucking Charisma. I mean, second to nobody. He had the most charisma of any wrestler of all time. And his wrestling matches, they weren't that great.
They're fine. They're fine. They weren't like watching Ultimate Warrior wrestle or watching Hulk Hogan wrestle a lot of matches. They were better than those guys.
True, but the people's elbow was just fucking ridiculous.
You know what, though? Watch the damn crowd when he does that. And that's all that matters. It really is.
But I mean,
what's up, Jessica? Thanks for tuning in.
But I just think that's the reason. I think part of the reason. Your reasoning was actually really good because of the fact that he did have the drug problem and he went to TNA because WWE didn't want to deal with him and the fact that he was addicted to painkillers and all the other drugs he was on, and that unfortunately hurt him. Kind of like when people do their top 5 lists and they list off all these wrestlers, you never hear Sting's name get brought up. Because of the fact that Sting never worked for WWE. Sting was
mostly did not work for WWE.
For the most part, he didn't work for WWE. Obviously, everybody...
he had like 4 matches.
But like you think about a man who was a mainstay in WCW for a very long time. He was their biggest star for like a decade. And then he went to TNA and was one of their biggest stars for about a decade. So I think that he's another one of those guys that kind of gets overlooked and overshadowed. And it's funny that you say that because... I bring up Sting, kind of like a segue. WWE Shop has eliminated all of Sting's merchandise from the website, which is causing speculation that people are expecting him to make an appearance at Full Gear. I think you got it right. Full Gear.
Yeah. Graham. Rock versus Hogan. Like, you don't need to be the greatest technician in the ring. You need to know how to work the crowd, and you need to have character and charisma. Both those guys had that in spades, and that's why. The Sky Dome, I'm sure Hulk Hogan would call it the Silver Dome, was shaking. That's why Jerry the King Lawler, to this day, still says that's the loudest he's ever heard a place. And they were in a freaking stadium. Usually with a stadium, the noise lifts and it doesn't stay as well as if you're in an arena. But he's like, that place was louder than I've ever heard anything.
And I will say this, that the 2 best that get in a reaction from the crowd were The Rock and Hulk Hogan. They were the 2 best. I mean, Austin's in that conversation too, but those 2 were just they're 1 and 2 right there, and it doesn't get better than that.
Nice, don't eat brown snow. He's drinking Malort right now.
Oh God, why? Did you guys have a rain shower yesterday that you could collect? Oh no, did it snow in Chicago? Can you take some of that snow that was in like a divot somewhere, melt it, and drink that? Because I'm sure that tastes better than Malort.
So good.
Good and not good and terrible.
So, all right. So we'll get to the 3 title matches. We actually had Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso start off the card, and the thing that Brainless One and I predicted happened.
I can't believe that one.
I can.
I mean, it makes sense.
It makes complete sense.
I think
I think the follow through that they had on SmackDown made it even better. This is like one of the best storylines WWE's had in a while.
I love it. I'm excited to see Jimmy Uso come back at full strength. And if they do what I think they're going to do, and I really do think they're going to do this, they could have the top stable in all of WWE. I'm sorry, no, I take that back. They're going to have the second biggest stable in all of WWE because there's a stable that's going to be that's starting to formulate down in NXT that I'm even more excited for than the freaking.
What about the Hurt Business?
No, what happened on Wednesday? Well, I mean, that's just I can't. I'm telling you right now that is going to be the faction, especially when another person comes back from an injury that they just suffered.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And I'll tell you right now, Pat McAfee could tell a goddamn story. That man could tell a fucking story. So he's a better version of what Gronk was supposed to be.
So Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso.
Solid match. They told a great story. I was a little bored by it.
But that, I think, is the point. Like, Roman is supposed to beat him down so badly and then, like, have him have these spurts of where you think he's going to win, but that's part of the storytelling. That's why, like, when you hear Orton talk or where you hear Undertaker and Stone Cold talk, they specifically say, kids nowadays need to slow the hell down and let the crowd be able to soak in what is happening. Because if you're moving 5 million miles an hour, it does, like, you could ooh and ah somebody, but you're not going to get them here. They're going slow to build that into you. So as much as I understand, hey, like, yeah, it felt like a little slow, that they were doing that specifically story-wise. It probably would have worked even better if there was a real crowd there, but I mean, they're doing what they can with Thunderdome.
No, they're doing a wonderful job with Thunderdome. I can't say enough good things about Thunderdome until the Brandless one tries to get onto the Thunderdome.
Right.
Because it's going to happen.
Donnie Brown Snow said, no, it's battery acid brewed through a rotten grapefruit. Yeah. So, yeah, Jessica, that stable, and, she's saying, The Rock becoming part of the storyline, whether he joins the stable or tries to take down the tribal chief.
There was one, kind of nuance that could be added to this whole storyline, and that's the father of the Usos.
Right.
Rikishi getting involved in the story, because that's his brother, right? Cousin, brother.
It's so, I just get the feeling everybody from Samoa is related to,
Well, I know
they're all related to each other except for Samoa Joe.
Yeah. I forget, if Roman Reigns is Fatu's cousin or his brother, because I know that
They're not brothers.
they must.
He is the son of, I think, Sika. One of the guys at the end of the match came out.
Sika is Roman's dad. So
Yeah.
maybe Alpha is Rikishi's dad. Oh God! See, this is why we need.
No, your eyes are gonna go crossed.
I know.
Try to figure it out.
That either way, but they were saying that Rikishi could be a part of that equation because he would be a smart pick because they are related and everything, and it leads on to it. And at the end of the match, when Jimmy Uso tried to get out there, was trying to get Roman off because they were trying to get him to stop the match because Jay Uso was
Refused to quit
and was kind of incapacitated. So Roman basically put Jimmy in a freaking headlock, and that was what got Jay to finally submit and everything.
Yeah, to say I quit.
So
yeah, that's what the prediction was.
And the fact that they had to bring out Alpha and Sika. And my favorite part is I was reading some of the comments on Twitter and everything, and people are like, who the hell are these two old guys that are coming out? And I'm like,
learn your history, folks.
Wow. I'm like, these are two of the most iconic wrestling figures in tag team competition in wrestling history.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's the Samoans. It's Alpha and Sika. Everybody knows who the Samoans are. And their younger brother, Haku, is doing things over in freaking New Japan.
Right.
Still the scariest man on the planet. I wouldn't fuck with Haku.
Right. I'm trying to. This right here is the family tree.
Golly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all over the freaking place. Yeah. Man, oh man.
There's Jimmy, Jay Uso, Rikishi's right there. Oh, boy.
You got the Rock's family over here. It's crazy though. So boom, 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 boom. Yeah, they're.
Damn,
But it's extended. I mean, they're legit cousins, obviously. But trying to figure out where the heck they actually connect. Crazy. So anyway,
that's
Rikishi is Roman's cousin or uncle. You keep talking. I'll see if I can figure this out.
All right, so Jay's going to try to figure out which one is which between Rikishi and where him and the bloodline of him and Roman Reigns and all that stuff, because there's just a lot of them out there. So I mean, I really do think in the storyline wise that here we go. Donnie Brown Snow, Roman and Rikishi are first cousins.
All right,
there you go. And I know that one of them was the brother of Rosie and the other one was the brother of Umaga, or I think the Roman might have been the brother of both of them. I don't know. It's hard to. It's like yeah. I can't. It's just trying to figure it out. It's just a little much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do think like adding Rikishi to this equation is going to make things going forward help build up this whole him being the tribal chief. And it does, the way that they're treating this thing with the whole tribal chief thing is it's going to ultimately end with him and The Rock having the final blow off on this. Unless Haku makes an appearance, nobody's fucking with Haku. I'm telling you right now, I would take my chances with Brock Lesnar before I take my chances with Haku. Haku fucking intimidates freaking Chuck Norris.
Right. So, all right. But, you know, and I'm just going to go into SmackDown just because the promo that Roman and Jay cut at the beginning of the show was fucking awesome. Like,
it was such good shit.
The emotion that Jay was able to, like, on live TV, actually, like, convey. And you know, saying he hated Roman for what Roman had done and just so good. Set it up for later saying, hey, if you don't win your match later, you're like out of the family. And then the follow through where Jay wins his match.
Against Daniel Bryan, by the way.
And then, you know, him more or less saying like, hey, you know what? I'm with you, Oos. You know, saying to Roman, I'm with you.
I understand you, Oos.
And then
I understand now. I was like, oh, that's where I was just like, he kept on saying that shit. I'm like, this is just going to get played out.
But then he goes and beats the holy hell out of Daniel Bryan. But, you know, that was part of the promo at the beginning of the show where Roman said, hey, I'm the tribal chief because I did what was necessary to win the match. And sometimes you have to make those decisions. And, you know, him saying, oh, I understand. So now he understood, beat the hell out of Bryan, and definitely you know, when Jimmy comes back, that is going to be something. And is Jimmy going to accept Roman as tribal chief?
Eventually he will.
So
at first he will like, you know, try to fight it and everything, but he will just be like his brother Jay and fucking join forces. And then they're going to win the tag team titles, and then the tag team championships are going to be around their waist, just like the WWE titles going to be, the Universal Championship will be around Roman Reigns' waist, and we'll see.
All right, so Chris Brown saying that he believes that Daniel Bryan, after Survivor Series, will be the person that Roman goes against. And hey, you know what, Chris? I think with the fact that Daniel Bryan said like he signed his last full-time contract with WWE, like Daniel Bryan at this point is going to be, you know, I think utilized to, you know, be a legit, you know, kind of like contender for the title,
but he's
going to always lose. He's going to be kind of like in Dolph Ziggler mode, I think.
He's going to help. He's going to help put wrestlers where they need to be.
And he's going to be a bridge that people can legit want to pay to see him wrestle. And don't burn through a bunch of new feuds or possibly burn through like somebody you're trying to build up. It's like Daniel Bryan's a made man. He doesn't have anything to prove. You know, I don't think I think he's already made enough money where he doesn't have to work anymore the rest of his life. So, yeah.
I agree with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he got like one more title reign before it's all said and done, though.
We shall see. Tony Brown Snow wants them to use the Tonga Kid as part of this too. Hey, you know, he's part of the family too. So
It'd be some shit if they were actually able to get like Tama Tonga from freaking New Japan to have him like have a blow off of Roman Reigns. Because I think he's also one of the ones that isn't related to them.
Right. That would take an awful long time for them to build up, because they would have to build up Tama Tonga as like somebody.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's why you get Haku. You don't have to build up Haku. Haku is Haku.
You have to build up Haku, because the same thing that happened with Appa and Sika. Who the hell are these two old guys?
I didn't realize it was them until I was like, holy shit, is that Alpha and Sika?
So,
oh man, they both look lost out there.
but you know, this is one of the best storytelling things that WWE's done.
Oh yeah, I agree. At least since the hemp champion Daniel Bryan. That was the last good storytelling that they did.
No, they've done plenty of other good storytelling. The Bailey and Sasha stuff has been fantastic. The stuff that they did with like Fiend, that's been good. That's been such good shit. There's been a lot of good storytelling. It's like, but this to me is like another level, because like it feels like there's an element of like realism.
I don't want WWE to get credit for what has become the Fiend, because I am 100% convinced that this is all Bray Wyatt's idea, was to become the Fiend the way he did. So I don't even want WWE to get any of the freaking accolades that it doesn't deserve for coming up with that idea. Come on.
That's a character. You need to come up with storylines. They have done storylines with the Fiend. And WWE, aka Vince McMahon, could have said no. Because he says no to almost everything.
That's not such good shit, pal.
And he changes his mind about every 3 seconds.
Which is funny, because they said that the script for SmackDown wasn't ready until an hour before the show last night.
Well, I bet that first segment wasn't even scripted. They might have given them bullet points, but if you're reading the script, you're not. They're not actors like you know, like what's her name who gets nominated every time?
Susan Lucci?
That's Emmys.
Oh.
No.
Oh, Julia Roberts?
She gets Meryl Streep. So.
Well, that's not fair. Meryl Streep's the GOAT.
Right, but I'm just trying to say they're not, you know, like that. But
kind of like how Vince Vaughn doesn't get a script anymore because he's the same character in every movie.
Right. There's a lot of people that are the same character in every movie. George Clooney was George Clooney for a very long time in movies.
Adam Sandler is still Adam Sandler in every fucking movie he's ever done.
All right, Chris Brown, Brainless One, let me ask you something Fiend related. Once they've done with the Fiend getting even with all the guys that supposedly old Bray did old Bray wrong, what the fuck do you do with him after that?
Goes back to being the old Bray Wyatt. Either that, or you just have him start doing feuds with other people that people have no. Because eventually he's going to run out of people that he can turn back. Because like right now, the biggest name right now is Randy Orton, and he's got to get his retribution from Randy Orton from when they wrestled a few years back at WrestleMania, and one of the worst fucking put together matches in WrestleMania history. If I'm not wrong, I mean he already did it with John Cena. He's done the same thing with Daniel Bryan. He's done it. He's turned the Miz back into being the fucking Miz. Braun Strowman's now a fucking walking freaking machine. Eventually, it's gonna. I think
he has to face Goldberg again.
God, please no. Probably, he probably will. But I mean, now he still has to get back at Roman Reigns because I mean, Roman Reigns is one of the ones that.
Well, we talked about the Shield versus Wyatt family before.
And if you think about it, Roman Reigns is one. In fact, in my opinion, a couple of years ago, his best rivalry was against Bray Wyatt when they were just beating the holy hell out of each other. And eventually he's going to have to get his from Roman Reigns, and then once he finishes all those out, eventually he's going to move to guys that he's never gotten into the ring with and have worked with, like Drew McIntyre and guys like in that category, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do because I really don't see them changing the Fiend from the Fiend right now because
I think
Vince
they
is
got
making-
a couple more years they can get out of it,
especially since
as it is.
Vince is making a fuck ton of money off of the Fiend right now.
And as long as that's happening, they probably won't change it. I mean, that's why they kept the New Day together for 6 years.
Yep.
They kept making money on merch, and that's why the New Day is still technically a team, but they're no longer a stable of 3. So we did have Sasha Banks going against Bayley.
Solid match, absolutely solid match. You knew
Storytelling wise, like I love that they added in like the chair to the ending.
Yeah.
But both these ladies like deserve a ton of credit for what they did there.
The women's division wouldn't be where it is today and have the advancements that it's had. And it's not even just the advancements that has happened in WWE. If it wasn't for the success that the four horsewomen had, I don't even think a lot of these companies would even have a successful women's division.
Wait a second here. The Knockouts division was one of the greatest things in TNA like 15 years ago. They had the best women's division in the world where they had legit rivalries. Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim is one of the greatest rivalries ever. I remember when they had Tara going against Mickie James when Mickie James had her run in TNA.
Yep.
They let the women do their thing in TNA. It was WWE who was slow to the whole thing.
It did take them a long time, but
WWE was way, way behind the curve here. Now because WWE is doing it, it elevates everything around the world, but other places were doing it way before WWE.
okay, I'll give you that one. The Knockouts division was, because I keep forgetting that somebody from Hard Hitting was one of the mainstays of the Knockouts division.
Beautiful people.
I mean, they did wonderful things for that. Like you said, between Mickie James and Tara and all them and Awesome Kong. I mean, look at Awesome Kong.
ODB.
I mean, I love ODB.
She's a goat.
I fucking love ODB. But what the women, all right, so what the women have done more or less for WWE is what has led to where it's gone. And I think that their two best performers, right? I mean, obviously there are only two performers of the four horsewomen are the two that went at it. You know what you were going to get from them. Because look at their match that they had in NXT a TakeOver when Sasha fought, for the title against Bayley. And Bayley went over, and then it was the
30-minute Iron Women match too.
Sasha Banks is now officially the only member of the horsewomen to have beaten all three members of the other horsewomen in a Hell in a Cell match for the women's championship. I wasn't surprised because I think that between all the four horsewomen, they are the two that work together the best. If that makes sense.
No, they have a long feud, long chemistry, and all four of the four horsewomen do well against each other in the ring, but they have a different level of chemistry. All right, so speaking of Mickie James, was she released? Where is she? Basically, a few weeks ago, Mickie was on TV. Actually, it might have been a month and a half ago, and she sustained an injury during a match. And during the night of the draft a few weeks ago, she was one of the names that was on the list, but went undrafted. I'm sure they're going to turn it into a storyline in some way, shape, or form. But no, she's still with WWE. I think she is just getting over an injury.
Yeah.
So
same thing with Andrade. Andrade had a minor surgery procedure he needed to get done, which is why he wasn't drafted. And I think that's going to eventually lead to what it's going to lead to.
So. And one other thing that was brought up in chat a little earlier is, I forget, I think it was one of the mics saying they think it's a mistake that Dabba-Kato it keeps kind of getting buried by Braun. If Dabba-Kato is the only thing that ends up coming out of Raw Underground, hopefully they will, he's a monster. and having him go against, the Monster Among Men as his first thing, that's tough because you don't want to take away from what Braun has done.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing they've done with Dominic Mysterio. They brought up Dominic Mysterio, and his first match was at SummerSlam, going one-on-one with Seth Rollins. That's like being a kid drafted in Major League Baseball, and you don't even go to any of the minor league systems. You go out there and you're playing against the Yankees. I mean, that's a good assessment if I do say so. So Dabba-Kato, but the thing is that Dabba-Kato is just kind of like I hate to say it, but like a one-trick pony. He's just a big, bulking dude, and it's like you don't have...
So far, Braun Strowman started kind of off like that. He started off as a rosebud.
So was Elias.
So
was Becky Lynch.
Just because you start there doesn't mean you end there.
Just remember, CM Punk once was used as a prop in a
WrestleMania 22.
Yep.
John Cena, his entrance. So yeah, you just argued against yourself. Good job.
I always do.
Yeah. So
it's the brainless aspect of my life.
So yeah, Dabba-Kato. I mean, it's possible they could do something with him. Not exciting enough for you, brainless one?
No, it's not that.
All right. But we shall see where all this goes. Anyway.
One more thing about the Elimination Chamber. Yeah, Elimination Chamber. I'll be right. About Hell in a Cell is we got the WWE Championship match fought inside a Hell in a Cell between...
Mostly in the Hell in the Cell.
Yes. Between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. And,
the sneak attack at the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, and I love the fact that it happened the way it did. This is why you never know. I mean, Randy Orton is
the
ultimate. And I think that he's another guy that kind of got overshadowed because of the fact of John Cena, in my opinion. Like Randy Orton would have gotten all the accolades he got.
Or even Batista for a little bit of time. And Orton self-admits that he was self-destructive when he was younger.
Yep.
But yeah, they originally wanted, when Triple H went against Batista at WrestleMania 21, that was supposed to be, their belief was it was going to be Orton versus Triple H. But when people were chanting for Batista.
Batista. Yes. It was, again, another match that was another story that was told very well. And I think that, Randy Orton has just proven himself to be the consummate professional and everything. And just the way that it ended and when they were climbing down the cage. One thing that really got me about that was when they were on the outside of the Hell in a Cell. And you could see when they were about to do that where Orton knocked McIntyre off of the cage and he fell onto the table. My one little thing that I took away from that, and I noticed it was nowhere else on the cage. So it's like they set it up this way perfectly, and it was terrible that they did it because it was just as clear as day. But you could see two little things sticking out of the cage, which made it easier for the two of them to stand there and do what they have to do.
You know what? Performer safety above everything else. I don't care if it takes away a little bit of, if it makes it safer for them. In my view, it's okay.
I think it took a little bit away. The bump itself was still good. I'm not going to take away what the bump did for the match, but it did just for me as the hardcore old school wrestling fan. It just took that much out of it because I always, for whatever reason, I always pick out stuff like that sticks out, and I'm like, we got this sticking out here, and oh look, they're doing this, and this, and then I always find the freaking, what is it, I forget what the hell it's called.
Waldo?
No, not the Waldo. It's the Easter egg. The little Easter egg that happens in all these movies and stuff like that. And that was, for me, that was like an Easter egg.
But again, what he was doing was dangerous enough if they don't set that up. If he slips, do you want to see somebody die?
No, I don't want to see anybody die.
So, I'm fine with them if they're doing something to make it safer for the performers. who are putting their bodies through what they put it through. It's like the Hell in a Cell that we see now is double the height of the one from Mick Foley against Undertaker. Double the height. Mm-hmm. Now, nobody's ever been thrown off quite like Mick Foley was during that. Like when Shane McMahon dropped off the top of that Hell in a Cell, that double the height of what Mick Foley dealt with. But Shane McMahon also just kind of dropped instead of had somebody throw him off. So the fact that, like, again, I come down to safety, but in general, with this match, storyline-wise, I love the fact that they brought in the thing about McIntyre's jaw, and when Orton was using the chair as something to kind of beat on that, using all the elements from the story that they've been going with for the past several months to fuse in with this. I love the fact that freaking Orton was in like regular pants for half the match before he finally.
No, they did a really good job, like telling this story and setting up the build for this match. And I know that we've been trying to figure out why they've kind of dragged on this McIntyre Orton thing, since McIntyre has been kind of beating Orton, in all these matches. And then we finally got the reason why. And I know, and obviously people are going to find a reason. Wrestling fans are very fickle. Wrestling fans will find any reason to complain about any little thing that has happened in any wrestling match. And the fact is that Randy Orton did come out victorious at the end of the match against Drew McIntyre and became a now 14-time champion, which is now tied for the second most title reigns in the history of professional wrestling, as he's tied now with Triple H, two behind the GOAT, John Cena, and the Nature GOAT, Ric Flair, who have 16. And I think it's great that Orton won. I'm happy as hell for Randy Orton.
I thought it was going to happen earlier than this, but one thing I'll say about this that kind of ties in is check out the documentary about Undertaker and Orton's feud on the network. It really cool kind of background in their year-long feud. I forget what's it called, First Look. I don't think one of the documentaries, but Untold. But it was a pretty good, pretty in-depth look at their rivalry from back, I think it was 2005.
Yep, sounds about right.
But one thing they did purposely omit from this, during that time, Undertaker did get one Cowboy Bob Orton fired. So what ended up happening, storyline-wise, they had a Hell in a Cell match. And Cowboy Bob Orton ended up getting cut open during the match. Cowboy Bob Orton at the time was suffering from hepatitis C at the time, which had no cure. So you had Undertaker bleeding, Randy Orton bleeding, and Cowboy Bob Orton bleeding. You know how you get hepatitis C?
Transfer of blood.
So if you have all three people with open wounds, Undertaker ended up okay. Randy Orton ended up okay. They now have a cure for hepatitis C, but Undertaker, when he found out, was pissed. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Because at that time, it wasn't like, all right, you're dead immediately. Like, it would take a while to mess with your system. They have now since found a cure, but they completely omitted the fact that, like, oh, yeah, that was kind of shitty that Cowboy Bob Orton didn't say a damn word about it.
Justifiably getting fired.
Yeah, but everything else about it, though, I was like, oh no, that's cool to hear. Like, Orton actually called his own self out, saying, like, yeah, when they were doing the run through for the practice for WrestleMania, I didn't show up because I was 24 years old and partied too much. So.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing that documentary too, because it was a very good rivalry at the time when it was the Legend Killer going up against the Legend, the Phenom, the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Who has been announced to be making an appearance at Survivor Series in 3 weeks because it will mark the 30-year anniversary of when Kane the Undertaker debuted for WWE in front of a live audience, televised audience, I should say, at Survivor Series 1990.
Right. Although he was not called Kane the Undertaker that night, he had a couple of matches, I think, that ended up on Superstars that he was called Kane the Undertaker, but like
he was supposed to be called Kane the Undertaker, but Ted DiBiase forgot that it was Kane the Undertaker, and
it ended up better anyway.
Yes, it did, because that would not have been as good.
And then Kane would not have been Kane.
No, we would have been stuck with Isaac Yankem DDS still.
Right. He could have been called Abel.
Oh.
Well, if they were trying to go with
that's
what would have
not just, okay. No.
That's what it would have gone to. Anyway.
Jay, he could have come up with something even more retarded, all we know.
Duke Drosy.
Hey, stop. Do we have to go through this again? You know, I'm not even wearing a hat to throw on the ground and how angry I am. Duke the Dumpster Josie was an incredible idea for a character, okay? Because the man looked, and what's really bothered me too was I actually watched the documentary that they did on Mick Foley. And one of the things that he talked about was all these ideas that they came up with for characters over the years, and they showed Duke Drosy. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Duke the Dumpster Drosy is a freaking treasure, man. He looked like a garbage man. That was a better idea than the fucking Goon. Goon. The Repo Man. A guy who used to come out and had like tires like sewn onto his freaking attire for Smash. From Smash from Demolition became the Repo Man.
Sad.
You know,
they're going to put the Repo Man in before Demolition, aren't they? That's what
at least Smash will be in. There'll be a graveyard Smash.
Yeah. Anyway, so Randy Orton 14th title reign leading into Monday night, where Randy Orton was on a moment of bliss, and Orton kind of talking like, "Hey." After Alexa Bliss says, like, you guys set the house on fire. Oh, yeah, I see what you're doing. All right, where's the Fiend? What's all happening with this? And he got Drew McIntyre instead, and McIntyre goes, and, they get into it. Orton leaves the ring, and then Fiend.
That creepy sound that it makes, like, when the Fiend's behind you and trying to attack you and everything.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, it's just fantastic. Monday Night Raw does have the artillery to be a legitimate threat and become the #1 show, but the fact is you still have the geriatric fuck Vince McMahon running the show, so I have zero.
He runs both shows though.
He runs everything into the fucking toilet. That's what he does.
Hey, SmackDown was good last night. SmackDown in general is pretty good. When Vince McMahon when Vince McMahon has 3 hours to play with. No. Please no. So,
God, no.
So, yeah. But, so, Fiend behind him, Orton decides he's going to rather attack, or at least go towards Drew McIntyre than the Fiend, and he gets his ass kicked. But
yeah.
So, I don't know if this is leading to a triple threat at whatever the December pay-per-view is, but we shall see.
Yeah.
WWE dropped the ball with Doink the Clown.
Sorry on that, please. Doink was actually a lot more. Doink should be in the Hall of Fame.
He should, for between that and Big Josh.
With a couple of buddies.
Well, I remember him more from being Maniac Matt Bourne. And he tag teamed with Buzz Sawyer. The Mad Dog, Buzz Sawyer. who's ended up stealing Undertaker's money apparently years ago. That was in the Stone Cold Sessions. Speaking of which, there is a second Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin's Broken Skull Sessions coming up. Yeah,
Looking forward to that too. Hopefully they bust out the bottle of Jack again.
yeah, that would be fun. Mike thinks it's a mistake that they took the title off McIntyre. I can understand, but you know, personally, like I thought the time to pull the trigger with Orton winning the title was a couple months ago, and like, you know, have the feud continue and have, you know, Drew chasing Orton, but you know, I guess they want to get a couple more months out of it, and you know, I didn't love the idea that Orton kept on losing to Drew, but then would keep on getting title shots, but storyline was what the storyline was, but overall, good storytelling and, you know, a feud that, you know, I guess overall one of the better ones. So, yeah. So that was that. So,
And like we had discussed with Raw, there was, like we said, 3 qualifying matches for the Raw SmackDown team. We're going to run through those really quickly. We got AJ Styles, who went up against Jeff Hardy. Styles went over. I'm sorry, there's no way you can have a Survivor Series team without AJ Styles being a part of it. Because if you think about the top stars in WWE, he's one of the first names out of your mouth.
right.
And then we had Elias go up against Keith Lee. Keith Lee, no surprise for me, going over on Elias. And it also helps further the storyline between Jeff Hardy and Elias, because the 2 of them got involved in the other one's qualifying match. So clearly this is going to lead to them doing something down the road, whether it's on Raw or pay-per-view in December, or maybe even have like some kind
guitar
of
match.
a guitar match at Survivor Series or whatever it is. And then we also had Sheamus versus Matt Riddle for the 3rd qualifying match. And to the surprise of the brainless one, who is the biggest Sheamus fan on the planet, Sheamus did go over on Matt Riddle. It was such a devastating loss for Riddle that he dropped the mat.
Yeah. Basically, with Matt Riddle, they have now turned his name to just Riddle.
Riddle me this.
And he actually went on Twitter. He's like, "No, man, I'm cool with Riddle." He's like, "I've been called Riddle my whole life. It's my last name. It's fine by me." Now, WWE's reasoning behind just calling him Riddle is they didn't like the idea that one of the first things that showed up when people typed in Matt Riddle was the lawsuit. The lawsuit, I don't know if it's been thrown out at this point, but I think it has. We're more or less disproving the claims against Matt Riddle that the female made during the speaking out movement. So it's like they didn't want people, when they were searching for Matt Riddle, to see that come up. So if they search Riddle, that will not be the first thing that comes up.
No, unfortunately, the first thing that's going to pop up is Riddle-er. Is the Riddler. But I mean, WWE has been doing this for a long time, where they're doing all this stupid shit. They tried doing it with Apollo Crews, and they just called him Apollo, and then they were like, it's not going to work now, so they added the Crews back to him.
Well, that had to do with something that happened where I think somebody killed somebody and had Crews as part of their name. So they shortened it to just Apollo because of that. That's just the hypersensitivity of, you know, the world we live in, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Sheamus defeated who at the time was called Matt Riddle. And he qualified for Survivor Series. We also had Lana qualifying for the female Survivor Series team, defeating Nikki Cross, Peyton Royce, and Lacey Evans.
And that was one thing that really got me too, because like with the Raw team, they were like, well, we're going to put the women's tag team champions of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax on the team. Then we're going to put Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, because they've both been pulling off some victories on Raw. And it's like, well, our final spot is going to be determined in a fatal 4-way qualifying match to get that. And it's like, well, why didn't the other ones like have to fight in a qualifying match? And the only reason I asked that is because like last night on SmackDown, we got Bianca Belair, we got Billie Kay, and we got Natty Neidhart.
Yep.
Who all went up to what was it? Adam Pearce.
Yeah, Adam Pearce.
They all went up to Adam Pearce and was like, "I belong on the SmackDown Women's Survivor Series team." And honest to goodness, like Natty Neidhart has a very good reasoning and a resume to be part of Team SmackDown. Obviously, with Bianca Belair, they're trying to give her some kind of a push, and and this is a good opportunity for how they're going to do that with her. And then it's like there's Billie Kay, and it's like we all know that Billie Kay is not going to be part of this team.
Right.
She is the Marty Jannetty of the Iconics. But they had their triple threat match, and it was just funny too because like we were watching it last night, and I went to Nicole and I was like, you know what?
Triple threat was yesterday.
I was, last night I was like, Bianca Belair is going to win this match. She goes, how do you know? I said, well, I've been watching this long enough, and I'm like, I know they're very high on Bianca Belair. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. She's going to win this triple threat match. Then you're going to have like three piss poor ways of getting members of the team. And then Bayley, who last night challenged Sasha to a title match, claiming that Sasha can't win rematch, title defenses and everything. So what's going to happen is Sasha's going to win the match. Bayley's going to have a tism. And then she's going to be like, well, since I'm not in the match against Asuka because I'm not SmackDown champion, I might as well just be captain of the SmackDown team. Sound about right? Does this sound like what it's going to end up leading to? This is what's going to happen. It's going to be Bianca Belair, Bayley, and 3 other women that are just going to be a part of the team. And what's going to happen is that 4 of the 5 women on the SmackDown team are going to get eliminated. And then it's just going to be Bianca Belair who's just going to pick off every other member of the Raw team to be the sole survivor.
All right, you've got the Brainless Ones prediction already.
I can just see it.
Is that your lock?
I want to say that's my lock. I will say this. I hope that's the way they go because that is the perfect way to build up Bianca Belair to get her to where she needs to be.
Similar to what they did with Rhea Ripley last year?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, we had the Hurt Business beat Retribution via DQ. Retribution still
winless. Slapjack.
And some slapjacks. It always, when I hear slapjack, I mean, it makes me think of that scene from Groundhog Day.
Yep.
Flapjacks. You guys got flapjacks. You got slapjacks? Yeah, and then we had Drew McIntyre defeating The Miz. So the man who wins Money in the Bank loses to McIntyre. Now, hey, keep Drew McIntyre strong. Drew McIntyre is going to be part of the Raw team.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did announce that it's going to be The Fiend versus Drew McIntyre, and the winner is going to be the captain of Team Raw.
So, yeah. So, all right. SmackDown, we already talked about the Reigns and Uso promo. We did have Kevin Owens eat a few cupcakes, and then he went against Dolph Ziggler in a Survivor Series qualifying match. And the cupcakes powered him up enough to defeat Dolph.
Yep.
So
no real big surprise in my book. I had a feeling that Kevin Owens, I'm like, because he's pretty much one of the biggest stars that they could put in this match to give SmackDown a little bit of credibility on their team. So, yeah. And obviously, Jey Uso beating Daniel Bryan was a shock to me last night. Storyline-wise, it made sense. But Jey Uso being a part of this team is like, all right, so they're definitely going to keep doing something with
full-on push.
Why not? Utilize them. If you got the talent, utilize them.
But with all of Dolph's history in Survivor Series, I was like, all right, no Dolph Ziggler this year. He's had some of the best Survivor Series moments in the last 10 years.
Yep.
Shared one of them with Sting.
Yep.
So, all right. We had Street Profits going against Cesaro and Nakamura in a non-title match, and I was sitting there cringing, getting ready for, the usual shit bomb of having the tag team champions lose. But thankfully, because they're building towards Survivor Series, they don't want to make their team look like shit.
Now.
So Street Profits go over on Nakamura and Cesaro here, and kind of looking forward to seeing New Day versus Street Profits in a few weeks. I think the chemistry between them is going to be off the charts. You could see it just in the way that they interacted, just exchanging the titles.
Yeah.
There's going to be something there. So
I'm just looking forward to Montez Ford and Kofi Kingston going at it in the ring, because that's going to be magnificent.
yeah. We did have a Lars Sullivan interview. It was interesting. You know him kind of getting upset about being called the freak, and why you call me, you're going to call me freak, aren't you? And, Graves doing his best to kind of talk himself out of that hole where like, like freakishly strong, and, but, just a different way than a straight ahead promo.
Right.
So it certainly not on the level of Jim Ross with Mankind, but, a little something to get the wheels turning as far as his character goes. So
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being part of the SmackDown team for Survivor Series.
And then beats up his teammates.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. All right, Chris Brown actually chiming in. He's assuming that we know the reason why NXT is not part of Survivor Series. Let's get into that.
So basically what happened was there was an outbreak once again at the Performance Center with the COVID. And there was a lot of positive tests and everything. So Vince McMahon thought it'd be a good idea for them to not do the tri-branded Survivor Series because of the fact that they did have the outbreak in NXT the way that they did. So he kind of just was like, well, I'm not going to risk getting any of my main stars sick, so I'm just going to do Raw versus SmackDown this year. And, I mean, it's unfortunate, especially because I thought that NXT did a wonderful job last year, and it was a different element of what we're used to with Survivor Series.
Yeah.
But I at the end of the day, I understand that, like you said earlier in the podcast, safety is the most important thing.
Yep.
So you can't risk anybody getting sick.
Yep.
But speaking of NXT, I think now would be the perfect time to get into the NXT show.
Halloween Havoc, taking out the old ECW name for pay-per-view that happened this time of year.
Yep.
Honestly, for me, this is the type of show that makes you go, you know what? This is why I like wrestling. It was a fun show. That it wasn't like that SmackDown we went to a couple of years ago that was trash, because so many commercial breaks during the show, and they were about to go on a European tour, and you could tell that they're all right, we can't get hurt before the tour, and it was a bunch of 6-man tag matches and a bunch of gimmick stuff, and it was a waste of time. Halloween Havoc was not. And they started off the show hot, where they had Damien. Well, they did the spin the wheel, make the deal, which I freaking love that, from when Vader went against Foley, or I should say Cactus Jack. Bang, 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 bang. And the spin wheel, make the deal match. But we ended up having, what the heck did they call it? It was North American title match between Gargano and Priest in a Devil's Playground match. So basically, anything goes, but they had a couple of props on the stage that were really cool looking, and these guys put on a hell of a match, a hell of a show, and surprised the hell out of me that we have a new North American champion in Johnny Gargano.
Throw the assist towards
the
Scream character from the movie Scream, helping out Johnny Gargano as he was victorious against Damian Priest.
The end, where he hit him over the head with the gravestone, and just seeing the thing
yeah,
looked awesome, and getting the pin. I'm wondering if the Scream character maybe is a returning Tino Sabatelli.
Could be.
So, but I thought it was added to the flavor of the night. and just an intriguing little extra thing to the storyline. I mean, personally, I thought they were going to keep the title on Priest for a while, but
Same.
apparently they're completely in love with what they've been doing with Gargano and Candice LeRae lately. So, but you know what? Gargano's a great performer, and I've certainly enjoyed the shift in his character. So,
Same. Then we got the biggest surprise of the night, as Pat McAfee came out with his NXT Tag Team Champions, Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, and he cut a promo. And people were thinking that he was going to fall to first of all, it was a tremendous promo by Pat McAfee. McAfee has the capabilities of being a really good storyteller as a heel. He's just got that natural ability to just get that reaction from the fans.
he naturally pisses people off.
It's justifiable. I mean, I've heard the guy talking on his podcast and all that stuff, and I could see it. And I think that McAfee has the capability of being a star in the wrestling industry. He's built like a pro wrestler. He talks like a pro wrestler. He handled himself very well against Adam Cole in their, oh shit, you're right. Adam Cole, baby! In their match that they had at TakeOver. And I think this is the perfect thing. And, he kind of was explaining to everybody why he was doing this to the Undisputed Era and how he was doing it, where he went with, what the hell was that big beefy dude's name? The guy who just shattered his leg. I can't remember the guy's name. Help me out here, guys. The guy that was down in NXT who basically, he had the hat on, and I can't even think of his name, but he basically just went out with an injury because he shattered his leg. So McAfee was like, oh, I need some help, and he went and he offered money to Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and they're like, we're not interested in it. And then they realized that eventually they were going to need help from McAfee, so they finally had a price for their work. And then he went into it, and he was like, this is what it's going to be all about. And then Kyle O'Reilly came out, and Kyle O'Reilly looked like he was about to go after all three of them. And then Pete Dunne's music hits. And Pete Dunne, who hasn't been seen down in regular NXT since the whole coronavirus has happened, finally came out. He looks like he's in great shape. I mean, people who are watching.
He is more jacked than ever.
And, he came out with a chair, and he handed one to Kyle O'Reilly. It looked like O'Reilly was going to, him and Pete Dunne were going to go after McAfee and the freaking Lorcan and Burch.
Rollins did.
And then he Seth Rollins done, where he cracked him in the back with a chair. And now Pete Dunne is now also a part of that faction. If they get that dude back, bullshit. Why? Why do people always try to do these things? Why? They know I'm not going to say Omega's better than anybody. Kenny Omega could kiss my fucking ass.
I mean, he just said that, Omega was better than Adam Cole, right? Yeah? Anyway.
Hunter must be sitting under the...
we can't mumble. We need to talk.
Yes, I know. I was trying to read, but...
Yes, I know. Well, one of us should be talking while the other one's reading.
True. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this from here on out. I think
obviously it's leading to them versus Undisputed Era at some point.
Yes, I'd like to see it happen at WrestleMania. If I'm being honest, that'd be the final blow off between them. Because
it's going to be War Games.
Oh yeah, probably.
It's going to be War Games.
Can you imagine Pat McAfee in fucking War Games?
I think it's going to happen. I think that normally they did it Survivor Series weekend for NXT, but I think they might have it earlier in the year, or maybe they'll have War Games at Royal Rumble.
I'll tell you right now, what would be the ultimate troll job is if McAfee came out wearing one of those T-shirts that they were selling for Gronkowski in the shop, the one that's now in the clearance section with the rest of his merchandise.
But that's when I think it'll be Royal Rumble weekend. They're going to have a TakeOver War Games. I think that's when it'll happen. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we had that. Then we also had one of my favorite segments that they did on NXT this week was they had I forget the name of the match, but it was Cameron Grimes going up against Dexter Lumis.
It was the Haunted House of Terror match, and it like the whole time like Grimes was trying to like get out of the match by talking to Regal.
Yes.
And Regal's like, no, you got to do this.
He's like, the van's coming to pick you up, and it's like this seedy van. I don't even know who the hell the dude was in the passenger seat.
Wait.
I know who it looked like.
Michael P.S. Hayes was in the van
Yes, I know.
with Kevin Von Erich.
Oh, that was Kevin Von Erich? I never would have guessed that. I was like, God damn, I'm like, that guy looks like Johnny Cobra from freaking Cobra Kai. Tell me he didn't look a little bit like Johnny Lawrence.
He looked a little bit like him.
I was like, is that Johnny Lawrence? I'm like, is that Steve
No,
the Pirate?
that was Kevin Von
I mean, it
Erich.
looked like Steve the Pirate and freaking Johnny Lawrence, and I'm like, and then Michael Hayes gets out, and I'm like, oh yeah. There was a whole bunch of coke that was in the back of that van that is no longer there because Michael P.S. Hayes just got out of that vehicle.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting take on it. The van picked up Cameron Grimes, brought him to this house, and he was just trying to find Dexter Lumis. I thought, you know me, I'm a huge fan of this cinematic type of matches that they've been doing, and this match delivered.
Yes.
This match delivered the way that I kind of expected for what it was.
Well, and so that they had it start in this haunted house, but then they ended up back in the arena, and they had actually dressed up the arena in a different way and had zombies, ghouls, and all that sorts of jazz kind of get integrated in it. And then Dexter Lumis just being super creepy Dexter Lumis.
I fucking love Dexter Lumis. I really do.
And Lumis goes over in this match, but this was like fun as all heck. If you were a non-wrestling fan, you'd probably be like, this is like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. But like, I'm watching it to be entertained, and like I was entertained like crazy from how the whole thing came together.
My biggest thing that I took away from this was the fact that they made Cameron Grimes, aka Trevor Lee, look like such a bitch. Like he was like legitimately afraid, and he just had like, it just, I don't know. That was my only thing that I didn't like about it, was like he was like legitimately afraid of Dexter Lumis and what Lumis was capable of doing. And it's like, dude, you're a wrestler. You're intimidating to a lot of people in this world. Just go out there and fight. It's not like you're getting into a House of Horrors match with like the Fiend or Brock Lesnar, so you're fine.
My personal belief is they just need to change his gimmick. He should be off TV for a bit and give him a shot to not be what he is, because he's capable of so much more.
Agreed, 100%. I like Trevor Lee a lot.
Yeah,
I liked him when he was on the independent scene, and I had a lot of high hopes for him when I found out he signed with WWE. Maybe this is the character he wants, though. Maybe he wants to be this southern bumpkin.
I mean, it's almost a better version of Skinner. That's not saying much, but all right. So we had Escobar going against Jake Atlas with the NXT Cruiserweight Championship on the line, and Escobar goes over, but Jake Atlas very game performance here, and they're trying to at least build him up a little bit and put him on that level. One interesting caveat to this, though, so we had a returning Jordan Devlin to NXT UK TV this week.
Yep.
He was also wearing the Cruiserweight Championship, but they're referring to it as the NXT UK Cruiserweight Championship. So I don't know if that's going to be a permanent split, or if it's a split until coronavirus is over, or like travel restrictions are over.
It's going to be interesting to see how they go about that.
I mean, they can't do it exactly the way they did with like Sami Zayn here.
I mean, they could, but people would be like, hey, that's creativity for you.
Didn't they do that 3 times now?
Probably. They did do it with the WWE Championship when CM Punk walked out with the title. And was like,
They do it with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. So
They did, and it's going to be curious. I'm curious because everybody knew Devlin was going to come back, and everybody knew that Devlin was going to come back.
Well, I don't think everybody knew Devlin was going to come back. They weren't sure whether or not the speaking out stuff was going to stick. That was part of the reason why they were unsure whether or not NXT UK was going to continue.
That's because they had a lot of people.
So yeah, it was not a guaranteed thing. Why are you undoing yourself in the middle of the show?
It was bothering me.
Not committed to the character. Sad.
Oh, I just ripped off a whole mess of hair. And Petey's upset about the fact that I ripped out a whole mess of my hair. It's all right, buddy.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. You know what? At this moment, I'm going to say it's going to kind of be a temporary, permanent thing where there's going to be 2 cruiserweight championships.
Agreed.
All right, so then we have Rhea Ripley going against Raquel Gonzalez. They've been building up this for quite a while, and these two ladies like beat the holy hell out of each other. I love this match. Like a lot of physicality, both like women who are both, you know, taller, larger frame, you know, not like somebody the size of Sasha Banks. You know, both of them are close to like Charlotte Flair size.
Well, Rhea Ripley is 5'8", and Raquel Gonzalez is 5'10". Because I looked at the tail of the tape and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Those are 2 impressive women right there.
They had a heck of a match.
And they did. They had a heck of a match, and I'm not disappointed in how it went and how the outcome was. And I think they could really turn that into like a long-standing feud between the 2 of them.
Yeah. Then our main event was Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae in a table, ladders, and stairs match. I was hoping that it was going to be a stairs match. Table, ladders, and stairs.
I will throw my shoe at you if you bring up the stairs match again. No. That's justifiable. I don't even want to hear it from you. That is so justifiable.
It was one of the worst matches
so
ever.
Justifiable.
It was one of the worst matches.
You spoke the Punjabi prison into existence. If you could speak that into existence, the stairs match can get spoken back into existence.
Don't Eat Brown Snow saying, does Kevin Von Erich being there hint that his son's going to NXT? I'm going to say yes. You know, obviously he has a long-standing history with Michael Hayes. And, you know, Kevin has done a lot to try to get his sons some exposure, whether it was that time in TNA when TNA had a pay-per-view down in the Dallas area. They brought the Von Erich boys and had Kevin in the audience, and it actually did significantly boost the sales for that show. So, you know, and I know his sons had been been around the wrestling scene, but in general, I'd say yes. I'm like going, but like my thought was like, why'd they bring Kevin Von Erich in? I thought they would have perhaps brought in some old WCW star, you know, like Jimmy Jam Garvin with Michael P.S. Hayes.
What a shock.
You know, I would have thought
Terry Bam Bam Gordy,
who's dead.
Cross him off then.
So, but yes, Don't Eat Brown Snow. I'd be very excited to see the Brainless One talk about that. Kevin Owens versus Kenny Omega in a stairs match, surrounded by the Punjabi prison.
No, fuck that. He was surrounded by cupcakes with pink frosting on them.
Right.
KO versus KO. There you go.
And a couple of brooms and blow-up dolls, 9-year-old Chinese girls. Everything that gets the Brainless One to get his noodle cooked. Yeah. Anyway, Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, they put on a great show here, but like the spot of the night was the bump that Candice LeRae took onto the ladders.
Oh God, yes.
Ow.
I'm still feeling it, and I didn't even go through those ladders.
Yeah, I'm sure she's going to be feeling that one for quite a while. Io Shirai picks up the victory here, but you know, I did like how like, you know, almost everybody tinged their themes a little bit and like dressed a little bit differently than they normally do. Just spruce up the theme of the night. I loved it.
And one thing that happened during the Shirai and Candice LeRae match was the Scream Dude actually tried to help Candice LeRae get up because there was a moment where she and Io Shirai were both kind of incapacitated. So he kind of just lifted Candice into the ring and helped her climb up the ladder. And as he was pushing her up the ladder, Shotzi Blackheart, who was the host of Halloween Havoc this week, came up from underneath, picked him up, and freaking hit the Scream guy with the what is that called?
Was it
the electric chair? That's what the old move was, where you just picked them up and then it looked like they were an electric chair. And just went, boom.
Right.
But that was the main event, and I enjoyed having Shotzi Blackheart as part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like somebody who could be hosting a show like that. So
Yeah, good stuff. It could have been her or Scarlett Bordeaux.
right.
All right. But before we move on to AEW here, a couple of things to note here. So with the Twitch thing that officially took effect at I think today, there were several WWE talent that got rid of their Twitch accounts. We had AJ Styles, Mia Yim, Zelina Vega, Aleister Black, Xavier Woods, and Cesaro. They all shut down their pages. It's like, you know what? These people are gamers and they're trying to have fun and engage the gaming community. And Vince McMahon decides not that he's going to take it from them, but if you're going to do this, you have to do it, and it's got to be the WWE banner. And if you do this and you make money off it, oh, by the way, that comes off your part of your base salary.
So fucking stupid.
They're independent contractors. How can you do that? Oh, wait, it's because it's criminal what Vince McMahon's been doing to them. You can't even say The Undertaker has been a WWE employee. He's been an employee of Mark Calloway for the last 30 years. But it's such bullshit. It really is. And Paige was like, it's one of her few real outlets to be able to connect with the fans now because, she kind of does media appearances for the company. And she was like, I broke my neck twice for this company. I'm tired of this. And it's like, you can understand where she's kind of coming from. And she's not on TV every week. It's not like her building the audience comes specifically only from being Paige on WWE TV. Maybe more people know of her because of that, but she is not on TV every week like when she was general manager. Mm-hmm. So, I almost think somebody like Paige should be an exception, but apparently a bunch of the talent confronted Vince McMahon this week and had some sort of discussion, but more or less Vince was like, yeah, I hear you, but no.
It's just a shame that the man has still resorted to pettiness after all these years. It's like, dude, let them have a living, man.
I mean, obviously they get paid well from WWE, but hey, especially now, it's like another added income for them. Why not?
Which is funny too, because I read something online earlier this week, kind of going hand in hand with this, with money and everything, is that they're about to announce what the third quarter is, and speculation is that money is more prevalent than it was before, and it's because of the fact that Vince McMahon is not losing money doing house shows. And
I buy house shows. Yeah, we're going to get European tours that will have some house shows. I'm sure international tours around other parts of the world.
And they'll probably have that one Friday, Saturday, weekend long house show that they do at Madison Square Garden that they typically like to do.
Once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Other than that,
they're going to be bad.
Why would they do it?
Yeah, they're going to end up, it's going to end up being like where the wrestlers have maybe 100 dates a year to work, and maybe people will be more inclined to stick around a little bit longer. Somebody like a Daniel Bryan.
Their bodies won't get beat the hell out of.
Yep.
Rey Mysterio. Undertaker's career probably could have lasted a whole bunch longer.
Yep.
So, and apparently if he didn't face Giant Gonzalez, his career could have lasted longer. Well, actually, technically, he hasn't completely closed the book on that. So.
Yeah.
And outside of that, as we're about to segue into AEW talk, Jake Hager did have an MMA match at Bellator 250, and he actually taking place in Uncasville, Connecticut, where the home state of Me and the Brainless won. And he actually came out with a split decision victory, but like, man, his face was roughed up.
Oh yeah, it definitely looked pretty roughed up after his fight that he had on Saturday. And kudos to Jake Hager for being victorious. You really are one of the baddest men on the planet. So with your lift and your Thoring Eagle.
Doesn't matter, man. Yeah, Cody has a list.
Yes.
Yeah, but he goes out there and does it. But yeah, Jake Hager, look, he's new to the MMA game, and get a bit old to get a start in it. But 3-0, legit fights. So just kind of adds credibility to his character on Dynamite even more.
Yep.
So
it definitely makes him look more and more like the enforcer that he's supposed to be as part of the inner circle that Chris Jericho put together.
And I don't know. I'm wondering if they're going to keep him off TV until like his wounds heal, because I mean, Full Gear is next week, and you would expect like, hey, let's have Hager there for whether or not MJF becomes part of the inner circle, but dude, it's going to take him at least a few weeks for his face to heal up, and that gash on his head is going to take a while. I'm guessing he probably broke his nose, and so.
But speaking of the inner circle and Dynamite this week, we had the open forum as to whether or not MJF was going to be a part of the inner circle.
They brought out a whole bunch of folks. It was cool seeing like Bischoff on TV, Luchasaurus asking like a very in-depth, intelligent question, and then when MJF responded like, "Wow, that's very intelligent for a dinosaur." So good.
Oh, it's so plus stuff, and which has now led to a match between MJF and Chris Jericho at Full Gear. If MJF wins, he is part of the inner circle. If Chris Jericho wins, then he is not part of the inner circle.
A crazy thing entered my brain here when they announced this match. Because it would piss people off to no end, particularly wrestling fans. Will they troll on us, and will we see a second finger poke of doom? Because part of me is like going, is Jericho just going to lay down and let MJF pin him? Pissing off wrestling fans, but also like then after that they're like hugging, and then Scott Steiner comes to the ring
and hops around like an Easter bunny. Oh my God! Please no, I don't want that.
But like that was like the first thing that entered my brain based off of what we've kind of seen from Jericho and MJF heading up. Yeah, there's a little bit of like ego clashing and what have you, but like they always end up like, yeah, you're pretty good, and you're pretty good, and you're pretty good. So I don't know, but or does MJF keep his own thing separate and suffer his second loss, his first legit loss since John Moxley?
I've been waiting for them to do a second version of the finger poke of doom, and I think that there was going to be a time for them to pull the trigger. There is no better time to do it than this next week at Full Gear. Yeah. So, wouldn't surprise me.
So, but yeah, that entered my brain. But they had a couple of moments here where like Tony Schiavone, after like Bischoff was going on about how, I remember you back in WCW. You were a prima donna then. You're a prima donna now. And never liked that attitude with you, Jericho. And Jericho's starts getting belligerent, and then Tony Schiavone just yells, "Shut up!" Great.
I
Loved it.
loved it. I did. I loved it. It made up for the dinner debonair that they did last week. Sorry, I didn't. I wasn't as big of a fan.
Yeah, you said you hated it.
I was trying to.
All right, so Mike's saying he can't see AEW doing the finger poke of doom. He thinks they'll lose lots of fans. I think they've built up enough goodwill, and again, this is like, I think they've built up goodwill with the fans, and storyline wise, I think it would make sense with these two.
It would. It would, absolutely would.
It wouldn't be like, oh, we're just going to give Hulk Hogan the title, you know. But anyway, so town hall meeting. All right, we did actually start off the show with Wardlow versus Hangman Adam Page in the semifinals for the #1 contendership for the AEW title, which when it was brought up last week, I forget his name, who tuned in last week, but kind of saying like, well, why do they have rankings if they keep on having tournaments and battle royals? Because Brian Cage right now is the recognized #1 contender, but the winner of this tournament is going to be the next one going against Moxley after the Moxley Kingston I Quit match.
I think that the reason that they're doing this is so that they can actually do something with the whole Hangman Page Kenny Omega storyline ever since they had that blow off after they kind of, when they lost the tag team titles the way they did. And I think this is one of those ways where you can build that, where you can have them kind of have like a start of the culmination of their feud, but also build up where one of them can get a shot at Jon Moxley's championship. And I think a lot of people are expecting it to be Hangman Page. I fully expect it to be Kenny Omega because Kenny Omega, he's an 18-star superstar.
Have you seen his entrance? Have you seen the new entrance for him?
No.
You need to see it. Between the girls with the mops and them talking about how many 5-star plus matches he's had according to Dave Meltzer, like they hit on everything that absolutely causes you to lose your mind. It's perfect. It's so good.
It's such good shit, pal.
It is such good shit, pal. So Wardlow going against Hangman Page. At the end of this match, Page actually had to hit 2 buckshot lariats on Wardlow to take him out. But Hangman Page advances to the finals, which will be at Full Gear next weekend. And, no surprise, he is going against Kenny Omega, who beat Pentagon.
Yes.
In the finals. Pentagon ended up taking the place of his brother, who got injured in the match the week before. So there was that. So, I mean, you got to see Kenny Omega doing his thing. Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!
We had a Jon Moxley promo, and, Moxley just doing Moxley things and talking about how, hey, Eddie, you better watch your neck, dude, after he had Kingston tap out. And not tap out, but have the match called because Kingston didn't quit and got choked out. But Kingston ends up coming out, cutting a promo, and had a match against Matt Sydal. He did not fall on his face. That was good. But no shock here. Kingston goes over, and, he and Moxley had a collision course, I Quit match next week. And I'm looking forward to it. Eddie Kingston's, longtime pro, and the storyline with Moxley, I've enjoyed it. Hey, talking about, yeah, you're the sports entertainer. You got any? You tough? Moxley proves to him, oh yeah, I'm tough. I beat you. And now Kingston's like, well, yeah, but the referee called the match. I didn't. All right, you got to make me say I quit. The thing with I Quit matches, you're like, oh, well, neither of them will quit. What will make either of these guys say those words?
Moxley, if you don't quit, I'm going to have you sign with WWE again. I quit.
Right. Unless they, like, in some way ended up incorporated, like, Renee Young being in the audience and do something similar to what we saw with Roman. Like, otherwise, it's like, how would you get either one of them to quit? We will find out, though, November 7th. So,
A week from today.
oh, there you go.
What do we got?
The Montreal Screwjob made sense back then because Hart leaving WWE. If AEW does that now, it would come off as weird, especially since no title is on the line. Right. I think that's talking about our finger poke of doom thing.
Yeah.
So
I've seen crazier shit, so it wouldn't surprise me if it ended in a finger poking doom, personally.
right. So, all right. Then we had they did show a short bit. Serena Deeb won, I think it was the NWA Women's Championship
From Thunder Rosa.
and she had a match. And you know what? It's good to see Serena Deeb like doing well because there was a point in time when she got fired from WWE, she had all sorts of stuff going on, and it caused a premature ending to CM Punk's stable of followers. I love that.
The Straight Edge Society.
Yeah, love the Straight Edge Society, but good to see her doing well, and that they're actually doing something with her. So, and then we had Cody going against the GOAT, freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. So after they had the time limit draw, was it last week?
Yes.
They had the rematch, TNT title on the line.
In a lumberjack match.
All sorts of chicanery going on here, though. End of this match, basically the Dark Order attacked Orange Cassidy, and there was all other shenanigans going on in the ring. And Cody hits Crossroads, gets the 1, 2, 3, does not make Orange Cassidy look bad, and further the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we're going to see Cassidy versus Cody again anytime soon, but stuff with the Dark Order and the best friends in Orange Cassidy keeps rolling. And Cody is going to go against Darby Allin, who is very similar to Sting back in the day. Not in the rafters, but up in the stands all by his lonesome with like a light on the side of his face.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who we're going to see going against Cody at Full Gear next week. And if I'm remembering correctly, one of Darby Allin's first matches was a time limit draw against Cody Rhodes.
Yep.
In AEW. It might have been his first.
One of the first couple matches.
Yeah.
For sure.
So.
And they also had a match when Darby Allin was NEW World Heavyweight Champion. Him and Cody Rhodes wrestled, I want to say in New York. I think Cody Rhodes did not go over in that match. Darby Allin, who was champion of NEW. Yeah, NEW. Northeast Wrestling. Home of... Ron
Zombie. No, not Rob Zombie, who just announced he's coming out with a new album. Ron Zombie. Yeah. Anyway. Yep. All right.
Y'all weren't there. Y'all didn't witness what I had to witness. If I can find that tape, and believe me, come hell or high water, I will find a copy of that match from Ron Zombie versus whoever the hell he wrestled against. And
Webster, Massachusetts.
No, that was in
was that Waterbury?
That was Waterbury, Connecticut.
Nice.
Because Velvet Sky wrestled, and you could see her thong.
Oh, her T-bar.
Yes, her T-bar.
All right. All right, so good, bad, and brainless time, brainless one.
Before we do that, there was one part of it I did want to bring up really quickly that we forgot to mention during the podcast. A couple days ago, and it kind of goes hand in hand with this podcast because, I mean, we talk about it as profusely as we do. But one half of the iconic tag team, the Wide-Eyed Southern Boys, who later had some success in ECW as part of the Full-Blooded Italians, Tracy Smothers passed away a couple days ago after a battle. I think he had an illness.
He had cancer.
He had cancer. The outcry from a lot of the wrestlers in the industry who said all these great things about what Tracy Smothers meant to them throughout their careers, about how Tracy Smothers was always that guy that they could turn to, always upbeat, very positive, and he was very helpful for a lot of the kids getting through the industry. And it's just unfortunate that Tracy Smothers did pass away after a bout with cancer. And I mean, that's really all that I could say about that. It really got me. It got me a lot more than I thought that Tracy Smothers passing away was going to get me.
Thank you, Clash 13.
Yes.
Yeah, with Tracy Smothers, I mean, I knew him mostly from his WCW run. Like, remember him in ECW, but Colt Cabana on his podcast always talked about Tracy Smothers, and like, he's like one of my favorite guys, and you know, anytime he's on a show, you know it's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. And you know, just a bummer. Tracy Smothers, yeah. I can only imagine the stories that could be told about that dude based off of just the little nuggets people put out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And fuck cancer.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
So.
Well, horrible segue, but yes. Now it's time for the good, the bad, and the brainless.
Yeah.
So what was your good for this week, Cousin Jay?
And it's one thing that we kind of touched on at the beginning, and we could talk about a little bit more now. Walter versus Dragunov. NXT UK. There were so many good things that happened this week. Like, you could have picked a cajillion things. I was like going, oh, like an embarrassment of riches of good things this week. But I love this match. I love the physicality of it. You know, I always talk about I prefer the matches where like it looks like they're beating the hell out of each other. Both of them had beat red chests by the end of this thing. Dragunov absolutely would not quit. And I loved everything about this match. So that's my good.
Okay. I think that's a good. For me, I'm just going to go with Halloween Havoc. They delivered such a good product on Halloween Havoc this week. The matches were really good. The whole concept of spinning the wheel was actually really good. I mean, hell, the Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes whole thing was very good. I even liked a little thing where they actually were playing Marilyn Manson during that whole thing between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. And just like all the different ambiances, the fact that they threw that freaking curveball with Pete Dunne joining forces with Pat McAfee,
the curveball with Gargano,
the Gargano curveball, and you know all this stuff. They did a wonderful job. 9 out of 10 stars, I would say, for this week is a very good grade for that. And I know it might not have been in demographics, but in total views, NXT did beat AEW on Wednesday.
Right.
So that's why I'm giving NXT because, and to top it off, that it was probably the best NXT show I've ever witnessed. That wasn't a takeover.
All right.
It was that good.
It was. Such good shit. All right. So my bad for this week. It has nothing to do with the quality of match. It has nothing to do with the performances in the match. Sasha winning the SmackDown title. It's something I've kind of been talking about ever since she came back. And you know, she has worked her tail off, and she has been a good soldier since she's come back. But to me, it's still basically
rewarding bad behavior
by taking a woman who had a hissy fit because she didn't get what she wanted or what she expected from WrestleMania and her title reign the first time as tag team champs with Bayley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vince said, like, hey, you're going to have a long title reign, and he changed his mind. Like, you know what? Shit happens at your job all the time. Don't necessarily like it, but don't sit there like, oh, well, I'm just gonna stop doing it for a year.
Yeah.
Take your ball and go home and be a crybaby about how things didn't go your way. Tough shit. That's life. But you know what? Again, she has been a good soldier since she's come back, but I don't like the idea of rewarding bad behavior. Yeah, she's worked her way up to this, but so that's my bad.
Okay. For me, my bad goes to the fact that they did what they did with the whole Hurt Business and Retribution for the pay-per-view. And it was just bad because they had to pick Slapjack to go up against Bobby Lashley.
See, you're laughing, so it's not even...
But it was bad because it's like, hey, you look at it and it's like Bobby Lashley looked overpowering in this match. Bobby Lashley, with no surprise, was victorious in this match. Slapjack just did not look very intimidating. He looked like he was pudgy and out of shape and all this stuff. And it was like as soon as Bobby Lashley
diet.
Almost. I don't think everybody's on that kind of diet, Jay.
Except for Cassius Ohno.
And maybe Joey Chestnut. But like between that and then after the match, after Bobby Lashley was victorious, and you had Retribution go out there and they were beating the snot out of freaking Bobby Lashley, and it was like you needed the freaking Hurt Business to come out all wearing suits, and it's like your boy is getting attacked by Retribution. You would have a little bit more pep in your step. I understand that you're all a little bit older and a little bit wiser, except for Cedric Alexander. So it might take you a little bit but it's like you all have to untie your freaking things, and it's like, all right, now it's time for the Hurt Business and everything. But the fact that Bobby Lashley was taking out T-Bar and Mace with no problems. I mean, they already took care of Slapjack, but I mean, but I think that they have not done a good job with this, and their match at Hell in a Cell has helped exemplify why they've completely mismanaged the whole Retribution thing. But that is my bad and not my brainless.
Yeah. All right. My brainless for this week is the whole Twitch thing. And it kind of, again, leads into the thing where I get upset about, like, them being called independent contractors. Well, if they're independent contractors, outside of their work with WWE, they should be able to do whatever the hell they want in their lives, right?
Agreed.
So if you're going to mandate that much control of what they can do in public, make them actual employees. Then I won't have issue with you saying, all right, we're going to take control of your Twitch account. But if you're calling them independent contractors, then leave their personal lives alone. Even if you're saying, like, well, they're building it off the name they built in WWE. Like, well, they're trying to get over and do things in their personal life that they enjoy. Now you got gamers in WWE who aren't able to connect with fans in that way. It's just like when they took away Zack Ryder's show, or like they didn't take it away. WWE then started managing it and doing like their own thing with it. The show became less than what it was. It just wasn't as good. It wasn't as fun.
Yep.
And it just sucks.
Yeah.
Chris Brown saying that will change for the better once Biden beats Trump and pushes that law to be changed. Honestly, I think the law is actually from the state of Connecticut. So you can blame the Democrats in Connecticut who have not changed it.
I'm tired of blaming the Democrats from Connecticut for everything. They're the reason why I live in Virginia. But that's neither here nor there. Oh, so I need a brainless for this week.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you could always say yourself, because you're brainless all the time, right? See what I did? It's funny because it's true.
Yeah, that's funny. For me, the only thing I thought, no, I'm going to agree with you. It's definitely the Twitch thing. I was going to try to find something else to agree with, but no, this whole
There wasn't a lot of bad shit that happened
that's the
this
reason
week.
why I was replaying everything, and I was like, no, it wasn't on Raw. No, it wasn't anything bad on SmackDown. No, it wasn't anything. Oh no, let me change that. My brainless is the way that they took the Money in the Bank briefcase away from Otis Dosovich. You know, you did this thing. You had this idea and a plan for him to win the Money in the Bank because you wanted that shock value from the fans because of the fact that Otis Dosovich, who was probably, in my opinion, the longest shot in the board to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, and you had him win the actual briefcase.
After 2 people died getting thrown off
After
the top
2 people
of
got thrown.
Titan Tower, King Corbin.
Oh, man. And the fact that the man hasn't gotten arrested. Thanks a lot, State of Connecticut.
Yeah, Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio, who both ended up eyeless.
And on SmackDown with King Corbin.
Are somehow still alive.
Yeah. But the fact is, you've done this thing with Otis Dosovich, and it's like you had this briefcase thing, and then you realized that your plan was going to fall through because it wasn't that great of a plan because you didn't have a long-term booking for Otis Dosovich being the Money in the Bank winner. Now, the fact is, you put the thing on The Miz, and everybody kind of half expected it to be The Miz that was going to get the briefcase anyway if Otis wasn't going to do it. And you had his tag team partner, who was on his former tag team partner, who was on a different show, turn on him, and now it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It was the only thing about, for me, it was the only thing about Hell in a Cell that I did not like. I mean, the whole match between Roman and Jey Uso, it felt boring to me, but storytelling wise, it was fantastic. This just really, it did nothing for me. It was a waste of a match. It was a waste of time. And the fact is, you basically wasted a few months of Otis Dosovich's career. And it's just like when you guys did the same thing with Enzo and Big Cass, when you broke them up way too fucking soon. When those guys had a chance to be a legitimate tag team in the tag team division, I liked Heavy Machinery. I like Heavy Machinery a lot. Otis Dosovich is our dude. And, you know, Tucker is one of those guys that was not appreciated for what he was able to do because Tucker is a pretty solid performer himself. And I really do think that they could have won multiple tag team championships together. But instead, you took everything from fucking Otis. You took Mandy, moved her to Raw. You've been trying for months to get that briefcase off of him. You took Tucker and moved him to Raw, and he didn't even get drafted in the regular draft. Tucker got moved on like Raw Talk or whatever the hell it was, or Talk and Smack or whatever. And then you just had the culmination like the way it was, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it was dumb. It was just really done. It was poorly timed, and if you had this happen right before the draft and then he got drafted to Raw, yes, that would have made a lot more sense. But the fact is that no. It was just dumb. Yeah, so that's why I got my winner for this week.
All right.
So if you like what you've seen this week, whether you are a first-time viewer or somebody who is a continuous fan of ours, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Periscope, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you'd like, follow and subscribe to us on all those outlets. We will do the same back. It has always been our main prerogative.
Right. And watch us weekly on the All Elite Marks page, facebook.com, All Elite Marks. And we go live there. Make sure you set up notifications for when we go live so you could join in with the conversation.
Just like when my phone goes off at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah. So
I think we've covered all the bases today.
Wait. We forgot something.
Get the tables?
No, not just that. But
wait. What you're saying to me is that today, on Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Wow. Oh my.
Today, on Halloween, October 31st of 2020, at an astonishing 1,913 days, F Marks Hall of Famer Kyle Saxon is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Right. So, all right. So that does it for episode 197 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay,
and I am the brainless one. Make sure you not swaggle. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
All right.
Have a wonderful Halloween, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I've been in the South too long.
Yeah.